Time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Bill Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Well, both teams really pitched well that weekend. The scores were very low. I believe it was 3-2, 2-0, and 3-0. So there were tough conditions to hit in that weekend. It was very cold. It was very rainy most of that weekend. So to me, it should be a much different series. The weather will be warmer. I would guess the ball will carry much better. So I think you'll see a little bit more offense this weekend.
But the roads will still suck, because that's the way it is in Arkansas. Hello, everybody. Will Pelagic, Phil Gorenblue, Professor Tom Hayes.
Friends in Arkansas.
I've got a friend in Arkansas who is helping us out this weekend as we hear.
That's more than you got here in South Carolina. Hi-oh.
On Sports Talk here, as we have already brought in some of the jokes for Thursday, the 7th day of June in 2018. As you can tell, it's the summer, folks.
It's called Funny Thursday.
We are all over the place today. We have a very packed show for you. As always, on Thursday, we talked to our friend Mike Morgan, ESPN SEC Network. He is going to be covering the Super Regionals in Lubbock, Texas, my favorite city in the state of Texas. Not. He'll join us just after 6:30. Madison Stokes, Danny Blair from the media from yesterday from South Carolina's perspective will hit on both of those. We're going to talk to the new, he's not new anymore, but he'll be new this upcoming season, Wofford football coach Josh Conklin, coming up at 7:20. Our usual Thursday visit with the money coach Fran Halloran, and our exit interview with Clemson baseball coach Monty Lee at the top of the 7 o'clock hour. Time for you to join us. 800-956-7266 is how you get in touch with us. You can also do so on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. We didn't learn too much out of the release from South Carolina baseball early today, other than the 3 starters that we presumed would start in the order of importance. Adam Hill, Cody Morris, Corman Majinski, those 3, at least in the order that they started in the regional. Seems like that'll be the order for the Super Regional if they play 3 games this weekend, Corn.
Yes, indeed. And, Majinski is really a great guy that was up and down during the regular season, pitching primarily the midweek games. For many of those games, didn't have it. And then he found something at the SEC tournament, pitched well in his outing there. Then he pitched very well in his outing in Greenville, North Carolina just the other day. So he gives South Carolina a kind of a fresh arm, somebody who throws very hard. And being a freshman, a guy you can build around for the next couple of years. And then Adam Hill, that's going to be key. They need him to go 6 innings plus if he can on Friday night. He's got to give them more than the 92 pitches in the 4 innings that he gave them at East Carolina. And Cody Morris was excellent in his outing at East Carolina. So it's not a bad trio. However, Arkansas is going to throw Blaine Knight, junior righty, 11-0, 2.74, and he's a hard thrower, 88 strikeouts in 95 innings. Follow him up with a hard-throwing lefty, Casey Murphy, 8-4, 2.86, 74 strikeouts in 88 innings. So they are hard throwers there. And the other thing about those 2 guys, control. Only 22 walks by Knight compared to Hill's 50. And we know that's been one of the bugaboos for Adam Hill all year, is losing the strike zone. And Murphy's only walked 16. So free runners on base is something South Carolina will have to eliminate, because you're not going to get many free passes from Arkansas.
And Murphy, of course, is lefty, who we've seen obviously has befuddled the Gamecocks here in recent weeks.
But apparently he's a lefty that doesn't throw the junk. I think South Carolina would rather have the hard-throwing lefty than the one that throws the crap.
Yeah, that's weird how that works, isn't it? I remember back in my days as a 242 hitter, I preferred the soft-throwing left-hander. I didn't like anything coming at me hard.
242, was that you adding every season you hit together? Is that how that worked? Is
well,
that how that lot of math
that
worked?
Was the career high. That was the career high.
You hit 242?
242.
I find that hard.
Senior year.
We heard some news about the tournament that Clemson is going to play in the Cayman Islands. They're going to face off against Akron in the opening game of that event coming up on the 19th of November. They'll face the winner or loser of Georgia or Illinois State. Also in that tournament are St. Bonaventure, Georgia State, Boise State, and Creighton. We also found out today that we already knew that Mike Boynton and the Oklahoma State Cowboys are going to play South Carolina this upcoming year. Well, they're also going to play another team for the Palmetto State. College of Charleston has a nice 2-for-1 deal with them. So
yeah.
some more flavor for the former USC player and assistant.
That's a great series for the College of Charleston. It gives them a chance to go to Hank Iba Arena and play in one of the real meccas of college basketball. Plus, it's a great RPI game for them. If they can go and get the win, it will even further elevate their profile. So, yeah, Michael Boynton, going back and reaching to his roots, which are at South Carolina from a collegiate standpoint as a player and as assistant coach. And, of course, he coached at Wofford for a while. And his emergence as a head coach, and you never know how things are going to work out. He happened to be on the staff and the head coach left, and they looked around the country. They looked inside their own program and decided he was the best guy to keep it going. And he's delivered for them.
Not only did the head coach leave, but he betrayed them for a bit of a lesser program in my mind. I think, you think about Big 12 basketball. Big 12 basketball, they really care about their basketball. That's the one thing that is left that really has prosperity inside that conference. After all the schools that have kind of, left and shuffled around, Big 12 basketball is still a big deal in the Midwest. and to leave a program with a lot of history to go to Illinois.
But doesn't Illinois have a similar
No.
history?
No.
Every time I watch a game, was it Assembly Hall?
Yeah.
Place is packed and everybody's in orange
because it's Bloomington, Normal, Illinois.
You're not impressed.
Well,
I'm not impressed. Have you been to Bloomington, Normal, Illinois?
I think
I have not.
Okay.
I think the last time they went to the
I'm sorry, Champaign, Illinois.
Yeah, the last time they went to the Final Four was in Seattle.
Right.
That's when Michigan won it all. But they played with, what, 5 guys, including Kendall Gill. I think all 5 were 6'5" or shorter.
I'll take Eddie Sutton over Lou Henson any day.
And of course, didn't Bill Self was at Illinois before he went to Kansas?
He was.
But
still, also Oklahoma State.
Still, when you look at Illinois and the high school basketball around there in Chicago, I've always thought of Illinois as a sleeping giant.
The only reason he left Oklahoma State is because they wouldn't pay him, so they're kind of notoriously cheap that way. That's the only thing that he didn't like there about them. But it was a great opportunity for Mike Boynton, and like you said, he's reaching back to the Palmetto State.
And the other opportunity for Mike Boynton is all of these guys, or a few of these guys in South Carolina, you see Oklahoma State's name attached to them. So he's trying to get his appearance of being in South Carolina as not only a alumni and a coach of an opposition team, but he's looking for players he can maybe siphon out of this state.
Some early recruiting notes, Corn?
Well, I want to say one more thing about Michael Boynton, too. And, I mean, he had 21 wins in his first year as the head coach, but they went to the NIT. He did have 2 wins over Kansas, and that was sort of the highlight for them.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to get them to the NCAA here fast because
they should have been.
They're not going to mess
around. You beat
around.
Kansas twice. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
You had some early recruiting.
Well, just want to say that we'll have an update on Josh Belk, the former Clemson defensive lineman. Got some news on what that situation is all about and where things stand with him as far as we know right now. More offers going out from Clemson and USC from their camp sessions. Clemson's first camp session in terms of cumulative days ended today. They'll have a little break. Will Muschamp has a bunch of one-day camps continuing, so they'll have camps going on through the weekend. And we'll talk about another defensive end type player who is, I think, strongly leaning to South Carolina at this point. It's coming in this weekend, and I don't think he's going to commit this weekend, but you never can tell. So we'll update all of that in recruiting.
Should be an interesting situation as South Carolina continues to attract. I'm not going to say it. I'm going to say it this way. They're attracting the kind of player now that you need to compete in the SEC and maybe at some point compete with Clemson.
Oh, absolutely. They are recruiting extremely well. Clemson missed on another target today. Cameron Kelly, the defensive back in Virginia, committed to Virginia Tech. Now, I don't know the backstory here. Up until a few days ago from the Clemson pundits, they were all over the kid and they were feeling like he was going to be a Tiger and he was a great player. Now, all of a sudden, he's not such a great player, and apparently their interest sort of cooled in the last couple of days, and he ends up going to Virginia Tech for some unknown reason.
I'm going to let you say it.
Huh?
Going to let you say it. You want to say
What
it?
you want to say? I told you so?
No, I think you were going to say he wasn't all in.
No, that's exactly right.
I guess that's what it was.
We will update the draft decisions for South Carolina and Clemson next.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. We are not disinviting ourselves to our own Hall of Fame party. Like Corn, you attended your Hall of Fame party or your Hall of Fame induction day, at least participation award. Yeah. You're not doing what T.O. did.
I get into a Hall of Fame as if I buy a ticket. Okay. Well,
T.O. is apparently not.
T.O. That's disappointing. I mean, listen, I can't think for an individual like that, but to me, that's just disappointing. And he's mad because he wasn't inducted earlier, wasn't chosen earlier. And there's a lot of people in the Pro Football Hall of Fame who didn't go in their first year of eligibility.
First ballot doesn't mean anything in the NFL.
So I just think that's just so sad. But the Hall of Fame is taking the high road. They said they're going to honor him and induct him if he doesn't show up, which he says he's not. And but that's his own personal war.
I want to know what that party is like that T.O.'s going to have, because I'm sure it'll be fun.
I'm just wondering. See, I try to think about ulterior motives for people. Here's my you want to hear my conspiracy theory?
What's
here?
that?
I'm sure it's coming.
Okay. T.O. is so emotional. I think he's afraid he'll break down at the hall and don't want to show it.
I think people would love that.
If he would stand there,
he doesn't want to feel vulnerable.
If he's the one that's standing there crying that day, they're talking about my quarterback. I would wonder what he would do at a Hall of Fame.
To me, it's just another sign where nothing is sacred anymore in our sports world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're talking the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Canton. I mean, thousands and thousands of pro football players never get the chance to go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's a select few when you think about all the players, and to snub it in terms of just declining to appear, you still want the honor. I mean, that's the thing. He's got no problem keeping the honor. He just doesn't want to be there for the induction.
He still gets the very nice blazer.
Yeah.
So 800-956-7266. Let's go to Walker, who is in Somerville, wants to talk a little NBA Finals. Hello, Walker. What's happened?
Hey, man. First of all, I want to say go Gamecocks. I'm really excited about this weekend. I'm actually a student at the University of South Carolina, so be watching that this weekend. But currently, I know you guys are all tired of will LeBron leave Cleveland, will he stay talk going on nationally. But I just wanted to get it from you guys with the lack of help that he's had, especially this series going down 3-0 last night. Do you think LeBron's out of Cleveland after this season?
Well, Corn does a very, very good job of carrying us every day. So how would you respond to that?
Those shoulders get very tired after a little while. You hear a lot of talk about the Lakers, that he wants to look at that. He's talking with Paul George about maybe trying to make a package and go to the Lakers. I mean, I'm not familiar with all the cap situation and how much money they have to spend and all this and that. Look, LeBron he's not getting any younger. What will he be, 35?
Yeah. 34.
He's got a lot of miles on those legs, and you just wonder when are they going to start to
spending all that money on his body, too.
Here's the deal.
He is in great shape, but when is that jump shot going to start coming up short on a regular basis?
Here's the deal. There's no use in going out. Why would you go to another team out west and Golden State is sitting there?
Yeah,
that doesn't make any sense.
I wouldn't do that.
There's only one team, and y'all laugh at this. There's only one team LeBron can go to and maybe carry them that has the energy to go through the playoffs.
Houston?
And that's the 76ers in the East.
Oh, in the East.
Well, let me tell you this now. I don't know if you were listening last night. I think, was it Rachel Nichols or somebody? Yes. Did she utter the word Boston?
No.
Yes, somebody said Boston with LeBron. And, of course, I immediately did a vomit in my mouth.
Well, you wouldn't want him?
No, I don't want to win a championship with LeBron. That's too easy.
No,
I don't want to win a championship with LeBron. I like my team. I like the way we've done it through the draft.
Well, I don't think he would do that because he wouldn't want to be with Kyrie anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't make any sense.
Somebody last night, Sports Center, somebody mentioned Boston. I'm serious. I almost passed out. No,
they just
don't want that.
So the draft wrapped up yesterday. 10 Gamecocks taken from the current players. 7 Clemson players. A bunch of them are guys who are going to basically leave and never come back because of the fact that they're seniors. As far as the Gamecocks go, you have to think Cortez, Hill, Morris, and Stokes those are guys in the first 10 rounds. You think those guys are gone?
Yeah. What did Coach tell us? He said all those guys taken the first day.
The
Yes.
first 10 rounds.
First
10.
First 2 days, basically
yeah.
1 through 10.
Right. I think he said he expects them to go. So,
and the guys who are basically outside of that on the current roster, Graham Lawson, LT Tolbert, Ridge Chapman, Bride and Taylor are both gone no matter what because they're seniors. Their eligibility is up. And Eddie Demurius. And Eddie is the curious one because that's a 17th round guy. You wonder where he ends up in that whole discussion.
And, you know, John Whittle wrote from the Big Spur that he thinks if Demurius comes back, they're going to make him a starter. Put him into the starting rotation next year.
Well, the weird thing is, where is he most valuable? Is he most valuable as somebody you can bring in multiple times in a weekend, or is he more valuable as somebody who can go deep in games? I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I mean, this year before we start really worrying about next year because they still got some work ahead.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
think about this, guys. I mean, they were 20-17 and left for dead, and here they are 2 wins away from Omaha.
Well, it seems unlikely.
Not measly wins because they'll be hard-fought, hard-earned wins, but they're just 2 wins away from going to Omaha.
They hit a perfect storm early. And what I mean by perfect storm is not only were they getting acclimated and the coaching staff getting acclimated to them, they were also trying to do this while they were using baling wire to put a roster together with the injuries. So those 2 dynamics working at the same time really made this team look terrible. But once they got their health, you could see they stepped it up.
John Whittle also wrote, first time I'd seen this, maybe you'd heard it before, that TJ Hopkins has got a bone broken like vertebra in his back.
Yeah.
And he didn't say surgery is going to be required, but he needs rest and rehab back there. Yeah, it's pretty serious.
You can go up to Canada and get and
I don't know.
Come back.
Find LeBron's doctor. I just for the sake of context, Clemson with the 3 guys who they basically are guaranteed to lose as seniors: Chris Williams, Drew Wharton, Ryan Miller. They all were drafted. The 4 others who were drafted: Seth Beer, Riley Gilliam, Jake Higginbotham, and Mitchell Miller, who technically was listed on Clemson's roster, though he had apparently transferred away to a junior college. But Monty Lee said this morning in his exit interviews with the media that basically he believes all 7 of those players will pursue professional baseball, and a couple also in the early rounds as well. The 2 that actually are coming back that basically told their agents, listen, we want to come back no matter what. Don't draft us. Brooks Crawford, Grayson Bird. So Bird, I think, feels like this in unfinished business. Of course, he had the quad injury at the end of the year. Brooks Crawford, I think, will be the guy, if you think about between him and Hennessy. I mean, if they go into next season and they have Crawford, Hennessy, and Strider in some order, shape, or fashion, that's a darn good rotation to return with, especially because there's upside with Hennessy, and I think Crawford has to be the guy you start on Friday night.
Well, and young guys who went through the wars this year, and except for Hennessy, he's been around a little bit, but it's his first year as a full-time starter. So, yeah, that's not a bad trio to start with next year. But you got to replace a lot of on-base percentage with Beer and Williams and power and RBIs in those 2. Just look at the numbers those 2 guys will take with them out the door.
Well, you think about Meredith will probably be your leadoff hitter full-time if he gets back healthy. You have Logan Davidson hitting in the 2nd spot. I mean, who do you hit third? Do you hit maybe Sam Hall third, somebody incoming third? I mean, there are a lot of questions. I mean, Kyle Wilkie probably will be somewhere in that 3, 4, 5 hole somewhere. I mean, there will be some questions. Then they won't be able to lean on a guy like a Seth Beer as much as they do because they don't have a guy like that. And I think that's the biggest problem.
And it could work to the
forward.
good. How many times have we seen teams when the stud everybody looks for to do the damage is now gone, they step up their game?
It'll be very interesting to see with them, and it'll be interesting to see for South Carolina how that goes, not only this weekend, but also how they address what happens with Arkansas as well as what happens with their own draft stocks as well. We'll continue to take your phone calls at 800-956-7266, and we'll also talk to Monty Lee, Josh Conklin, Fran Halloran. We're also going to hear from Mike Morgan. What do you call me a liar for?
Well, we got person on the line. You're not taking his call.
We ran out of time in the segment.
Oh, okay.
You hear the music? It's playing.
I kind of got the feeling you were freezing the guy out. Don't know why you would.
I would not freeze anybody out.
Okay.
You're trying to make me freeze out like the frozen mocha you have there sitting there from Dunkin'.
It's really good.
Morgan on the Move is next here on Sports Talk. Welcome back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. It is time for our weekly visit with ESPN and SEC Network's Mike Morgan. It is brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Check out foundersfcu.com to see how they can assist you in all of your financial needs. And the folks at BP Skinner Clothiers, whether you're in the Vista or wherever you may be across the state of South Carolina or around the world, BP Skinner Clothiers provides you the best in suits, shirts, pants, and other men's clothing accessories online, bpskinnerclothiers.com.
All right, Morgan on the move with us here on Sports Talk in beautiful Lubbock, Texas. You know, I've always wanted to go to Lubbock, Texas in early June.
No, you don't.
Just to smell the flowers and check out. They say everything's bigger in Texas, Mike.
Great Tex-Mex. You know, if you like a good taco, you could find a worse place to go. So I'll expect to see you here sometime in the near future.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. Let's talk about South Carolina, Arkansas. Let me get your take on Mark Kingston from afar. Compare how you view him now and the job he's done to your view of him when he was hired.
Well, I think I've been very consistent on this. You know, I thought it was a very good hire. I knew of Mark Kingston long before he was ever mentioned as a possibility for the job because I'd covered him at USF. I saw what he did with that program. I covered two of the regionals that he was in Gainesville. So he was already on my radar, and I knew that he was a guy that was ready for a bigger, better job. I know that for a lot of people, the assumption was South Carolina should be able to steal a coach from anybody, should be able to get the Louisville coach, the TCU coach. Then a hard dose of reality came where that doesn't work that way. Those schools generally don't lose coaches to money, just as if Mark Kingston becomes a red-hot commodity, I can assure you that Ray Kenner's not going to let another school poach him away. So unlike a lot of people who are very cynical with a hire, and then every time they lose a midweek game, it's what's going on with the program, I think I've been pretty consistent to say on your show and others that it was a very good hire, and he's got the program going in the right direction. And the fact that he's got him in a super in year one, to me, is just more proof of that.
How difficult a matchup is this for them second time around in Fayetteville? Probably your favorite place on earth to call a baseball game. 1-2 out there in the regular season. Now they're going back. You look at this Arkansas team individually by the numbers, what they do at home as well. Looks like there's not much of a weakness in there anywhere.
No, there's not. I know we had a conversation way back in late February, early March, and you asked me, who do you think the team to beat is? And I actually said Arkansas. I thought Arkansas coming into this year had a chance to win its first national championship, and I still think they got a very good chance. The fact that they're at home, the fact that they're playing very well, and as you mentioned, they don't have a true weakness. To me, that makes them the favorite in the Super, even against a red-hot Carolina team that seems to be clicking. It makes them the favorite, and if they advance, I would say they're one of the favorites to win it all. But very difficult matchup, and it's always unusual when you play a team in your own conference in a Super. I really don't like the way they kind of lined that up this year. I thought they could have done a better job to avoid 3 all-SEC Super Regionals. I don't think that's what we had in mind, but nevertheless, that's what we have, and that makes it a little bit. I don't know if that's an advantage for Carolina or not, because you know what you're getting into. You've already seen this team. You scouted this team. There's no secrets anymore. But no mistake about it. Blaine Knight is as good an ace as there is in college baseball, regardless of where he was drafted or anything else. He's just been that good. Their lineup hits a bunch of home runs, and they're very difficult to beat in that park. So it'll be a tough challenge, and I think one of the better Supers out there.
I beg your pardon if it makes it sound like I'm asking this of you, but how does a team get 10 players drafted and not have a single all-conference honoree?
Are you talking about
South Carolina? Yes. Like on any team.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think for a lot of people that vote, they make up their minds well before the season's over. They already have in their minds who the best players are and on the best teams. And at the time, South Carolina, let's say in early May or late April, maybe, was not one of the best teams. And you had some players that were underperforming, and you had some players that were hurt. So from that standpoint, it's not terribly surprising. I thought there were a lot of poor omissions on that list. So I don't have a whole lot of faith very often in the people that vote on those lists, how much time they really put into it, how much credibility to take out of it. So I guess from that standpoint, it's not shocking. But if I were to pick a reason why that would have been if Carolina just rolled through the regular season the way they did toward the end, and they played like a top 20 team, I think you'd have a lot more people on that list. But that would be my hypothesis on why that would actually be the case.
Well, Mike, the matchup you're at, the Blue Devils are going to think you're a good luck charm. Have you seen a greater escape act in a regional than what Duke pulled off in Athens over the last weekend?
You know, the only thing it reminded me of a little bit pro, and I would say that was somewhat different. This was even more impressive because they were on the road against a national seed in Georgia. But I remember that 0-1 Gamecock team that lost the first game to UCF and then had to battle through the losers bracket. And Blake Taylor's out there and with his arm hanging from a vein in the final game and just pitched on guts. It's really hard to do that. But they were behind all 4 games. They lost the first game to Troy 6-0. They're in front of Georgia's crowd. There's just so many things working against them, but they did it. And again, it goes to show what that team has is one of the best bullpens in college baseball. The rotation's not great, but as I always say, in college baseball's postseason, unlike the majors or unlike even the regular season, to me, it's better to have a good and deep bullpen than a frontline rotation. And that's what they have. And then you throw in Griffin Conine, the son of Jeff Conine, who got hot and hit 3 home runs in one day. That is enough of a formula. Now they're 2 wins away from history. They're 2 wins away from history, and Coach Tadlock of Texas Tech has already put that program on the map and made history. They won 100 years without going to Omaha. They've been twice in the last 5 under his direction. He's a hot coach. So you got 2 stories in that super.
Visiting with Mike Morgan. Morgan on the move here on Sports Talk. You know what? I am not going to ask you to review the Atlanta Braves draft. I'm going to give you that break.
Well, you can ask. It's a little early, but
no.
You can certainly ask.
I am more interested in your take on Lou not being drafted. What do you think is going to happen with him when his college career is up here soon?
That is a really delicate story, one that as a network we've had to deal with. As you can imagine, that as an announcer, and I have not called a regional the last 2 years in Corvallis, but I know people that have. I know that has been a cause for concern. How do you cover that? What do you say? I know the coaching staff over there, Coach Casey, has had to be very, you kind of wear kid gloves with that. Probably a poor choice of words, but nevertheless, it really is. It's an unfortunate situation. I don't even know where to go with it, to be honest with you, other than to tell you I'm not surprised because of all the publicity that it's received. There's been several articles written on it that nobody drafted him. I would be surprised if he doesn't get an opportunity to pitch at the next level, because one thing that is undeniable, the kid does have some major talent.
Indeed.
Is it? I mean, I'm just wondering, Mike. Is it a situation where they just couldn't take the PR hit of using a draft pick on him? I mean, what makes the difference between whether or not somebody signs him undrafted versus drafting him?
30 seconds.
Well, no, I mean, that's exactly it. It would be a huge PR hit. Now, it's still going to be a PR hit if you sign him as an undrafted free agent. You're right. Maybe it doesn't get quite the same level of attention. I don't know. But again, I find it hard to believe that no one's going to give him a chance based on something that happened when he was, when he was basically a teenager. As bad as it is and as much attention as it's gotten, I don't know. Not everybody in pro sports is a choir boy, as we know. And I just said all it takes is one team to give him a shot. I would not be surprised if there's a team out there that does it.
Soak as much enjoyment out of Lubbock, Texas as you can, Mike.
I'll do what I can. I appreciate it, guys.
Mike Morgan on the move. We'll come back with recruiting and Madison Stokes of the Gamecock baseball team.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
Welcome back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, continuing to get you hyped up for South Carolina and Arkansas. Remember, tomorrow our on-site correspondent, who we stole from Arkansas, Derek Ruskin, will join us at 6:30. He'll be handling our coverage, Arkansas side, if you will, for our network here as we continue throughout the weekend. He'll have our on-site reports from there, and also we'll talk to him on Monday, provided that there's still a game to play or perhaps a wrap-up of what happened out there. We had a chance yesterday to catch up with Madison Stokes and talk to him not just about what's happening this weekend, but what's happening in his future. He was taken in the 10th round of Major League Baseball draft by the Philadelphia Phillies. What was it like getting the call yesterday?
It was exciting. It was humbling. I was very grateful. I was very proud of the other guys that got called, of Adam, Carlos, Cody. And now we got some more calls today. And so I'm just really excited to see what other guys are going to get that call so that we can be there for them.
As a baseball player, you have to compartmentalize a lot. How do you deal with those emotions, but also know that there's still a task at hand on the field here at South Carolina?
I know these past 3 days, 2 days ago, yesterday and today, really big for guys here, including myself. So we're going to enjoy it, enjoy the wait, and just really excited to see what happens with everybody. But also we got a job to do in Arkansas. So today's the last day of the draft, so we'll see what happens with that. But once it's over, we're going to get back focused on preparing for Arkansas and going out there and doing a job.
Where were you yesterday? Were you waiting by the phone, or where were you when you got the call?
I had my phone on me, but I was with my girlfriend helping her clean her new house, just trying to get my mind off of it. I didn't want to sit on the couch just waiting because last year I did that for 3 days straight, and it didn't turn out so well. So I just want to get my mind off of it. So I was just cleaning her house when I saw my name pop up.
So you knew before, did they call you first, or did you know first?
They did not call me first. I received a text, and then she actually was the one that saw the tweet that popped up on my phone. And she sprinted out the door, and I think she was more excited than I was. So it was pretty cool.
Sense of relief?
It was. I got tired of waiting, but I had my faith in God, and He was going to take care of me no matter what. And I trusted His plan. That's what He did. He told me. I just casted all my worries and anxieties on Him and fears on Him, and He took care of it. So
you talked about last year and having to sit there and not hear the name or get that phone call. What was that? Does that make this year more gratifying?
It does. That tore me apart last year. That was probably the hardest thing I've ever gone through, just because I want to play professional baseball so bad. This is my ultimate dream and goal, and something I've worked for all my life, and I'm continuing to work for it. But I'm trying to enjoy myself while I'm here at Carolina. And but yeah, it was gratifying. Just glad it's over now, and now I'm going to be there for the guys that are still waiting for that phone call.
Were you with injuries and everything else going on? Did you ever think about leaving here at any point?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. I knew that I was going to face adversity, and that's part of baseball. You're going to face adversity, and I think the successful players, what separates them is how they handle that adversity and how they bounce back. And so I think my family and friends and coaches and everybody that's helped me through that adversity and injuries and not getting drafted last year. So they've been there for me through it all, and I can't thank them for enough.
That first Arkansas series seems like so long ago. What have you and your teammates learned about yourselves since then?
We know that we can compete against anybody. Florida, Arkansas, LSU, all those great SEC teams, the best competition in the country. So we know what we can. We know what we're going up against. We know what we have to do, but also we know what we have done. And so we're just really excited to see what happens when we get there.
Happy for a young man like that who goes from being undrafted to getting a nice position. He'll get a nice chunk of change, and maybe he'll get a final trip to Omaha as a result of that as well.
All right, to recruiting. We go now here on Sports Talk. Monty Lee coming up after the top of the hour, so stay tuned for that. But in football recruiting, updating Josh Belk, the former Clemson defensive lineman, remains somewhat in limbo at this time regarding his transfer plans. He's visited USC and Georgia. The Gamecocks remain the odds-on favorite to land him. Nobody is making up odds. I'm just saying amongst those of us who talk about it. Why hasn't he moved forward with his decision? His coach at Louisville William Mitchell told us, he keeps in regular contact, that right now Belk is waiting to see if anything comes from the NCAA on a decision on transfers. In other words, the NCAA is looking at the transfer situation, and they're waiting to see if it's possible he could be eligible right away to play, depending on what the NCAA decides. The coach said, quote, "As I understand it, the NCAA has got something coming up where they are going to make a decision on some transfer rules in June. He wanted to wait to see if they change anything. I don't think they're going to, but that's what he's waiting on to see if they're going to change anything." He said probably the beginning of July he'll make his decision.
Do you think he'll make up his mind? Or has he made up his mind, or just he's waiting to announce?
Well, I still think the indicators point towards South Carolina, but he's waiting to see what happens with this decision for whatever reason, and then he'll announce something in July.
Okay, I'm just
Do
wondering.
you see anything about what the NCAA is going to look at?
I'm not sure. I mean, it just, in my mind, I just feel like if you know where you want to go, I don't understand why those rules would necessarily change themselves from that perspective.
Clemson target defensive back Cameron Kelly out of Chesapeake, Virginia, committed to Virginia Tech today. At one time, Clemson apparently thought they were getting him. At one time, Penn State thought they were getting him. Virginia thought it was strongly in the mix at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Ends up being Virginia Tech.
Yeah, somebody asking on our Twitter says, why would any rules have an impact on his decision? I think, again, I kind of come from the same camp on that.
I don't know. I mean, again, everything looks like South Carolina. Maybe he wants to I can't see him wanting to check anybody else out. I don't think Tennessee's going to be a big factor with him from what I'm told. Georgia, of course, he visited there. Maybe Georgia's going to play a more prominent piece in this thing than we give them credit for moving forward.
Who knows?
Defensive back Jalen Phillips of Lawrenceville, Georgia, already announced a top 5: Clemson, Alabama, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Southern Cal, before going to Clemson for an unofficial on Wednesday. And he had the Tigers in the top 5 without an offer from them. He got that offer on Wednesday. And so now Clemson is even stronger with him. He's already taken an official to Oklahoma. He's planning to visit Tennessee and Alabama. August 20th is his announcement. USC defensive end target Savion Jackson will announce on June 13th. That is Wednesday. USC, Clemson, North Carolina, NC, Virginia Tech, his top 5. He was just at USC this past weekend for an official. And coming out of that visit, I think things look good for USC at that point. We'll see what happens. Meantime, another defensive end target, Dante Walker, Riverdale, Georgia, will visit unofficially with his mother this weekend. And right now he's favoring the Gamecocks. He told us, quote, "Right now in my head, I feel like I'm leaning towards the school hard, but I want my mom to see the school and get to experience what I experienced. I still have to get down to LSU in Florida." Asked which school he's leaning towards, Walker said, quote, "South Carolina. Really like a big brother, mentor. I always get a call from Coach Peterson or Coach Brian McClendon. They are always showing love." He said that he's been to USC 5 or 6 times for games and recruiting visits. Auburn, Mississippi State, Tennessee, LSU, also in his top 5. He'll go to LSU for a camp on June 26th. USC offered defensive back Cam Smith of Westwood at camp yesterday. He has been a real climber in recruiting circles, and the number of Power 5 offers he's received has gone up dramatically. He worked out in front of Muschamp and Robinson and did well, and they offered him Florida State, North Carolina, Maryland, Tennessee, West Virginia, East Carolina, Purdue, some other offers. USC, Tennessee, and North Carolina, his top 3 right now, no favorite. He said Tennessee has been recruiting him the hardest of those 3. August 17th is his announcement date. He's going to Tennessee this weekend, and he'll also visit North Carolina, East Carolina, and Florida State. USC today offered 2021 offensive lineman Weston Franklin, Jessup, Georgia, and Clemson offered 2020 offensive lineman Walker Parks of Lexington, Kentucky, and tight end Davis Allen of Calhoun, Georgia. They also offered 2020 quarterback Chandler Morris of Dallas. That's the son of Chad Morris.
We'll talk to Clemson baseball coach Monty Lee at the top of our next hour. He comes your way next on Sports Talk.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
A packed second hour of Sports Talk begins now, along with Phil Kornblut, Professor Tom Hayes, Will Pelagic here with you. We'll talk to the money coach, Fran Halloran, about a half hour from now. New Wofford coach Josh Conklin also on the way, and more preview of South Carolina and Arkansas Super Regional. But now we review the Clemson baseball season with their head coach on the line, Corn.
Indeed. In fact, as we go into Monty, I did want to mention one other recruiting note. This is probably breaking news for him. Clemson got a commitment in baseball last night from 2020 right-hander Ricky Williams of River Bluff.
Not that Ricky Williams.
No, not the football Ricky Williams. Eighth commitment that we know of for the Tigers class, sixth from the States. Of course, Monty can't comment on anything like that. We would never ask him to do that. But in case he hadn't heard, I thought I'd pass that on to him. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
We're good. We're good. So on the recruiting trail, running some camps, kind of evaluating this past season. That's kind of got you got your time occupied here at this stage of the of June.
Yeah, I mean, it's all recruiting from here on out. I mean, that's the big focus right now. We do have some camps coming up this summer, and also just trying to get through the draft. The draft was the last few days. Just trying to figure out who's kind of coming and going from the draft perspective and how it affects our roster. But overall, once we got done with the draft, now we're moving into recruiting and camps for the summer.
Yeah, well, it's been well documented since your season ended how disappointed you were with the way things wrapped up with Vanderbilt. A great overall season, comes up short in the regional once again. I think you understand as well as anybody at Clemson, as it would be at South Carolina or any of the other traditional baseball places, that you're measured by what happens in the postseason. Despite having a really good regular season and setting all kind of records, people want to see you get to Omaha. So how do you summarize the season from the standpoint of 47 wins, yet you can't get out of a home regional for the third straight year?
Well, I think it's just like you said. I mean, I think we're always going to be judged, based on what we do in the postseason. And obviously, it was a disappointing way to finish the season, to say the least. I mean, we had high expectations for this year, like we do every other year. We did accomplish some good things, and and hopefully that's being recognized. We did win 47 games and won our division in the ACC, won 22 games in the league, which was tied for the most in our conference, and won more games than any Clemson team that won in the last 12 years. I've already talked about all of that. As a head coach, I think you're always going to try to defend your team, and that's my job. But we also have to look at, where did we come up short? What areas do we have to improve upon? And, why did we not get through the regional for a third straight year? And I think it's pretty simple. We've got to get deeper starts on the mound. That was one of the things that hurt us this past weekend. We had to turn to our bullpen early in the regional and max out, the guys that have been so good for us over the course of the year to get us to that point. And we just didn't get the quality starts that we needed in the regional. And, when you play that fourth game, it's very difficult to get through it when you're facing a team like the Vanderbilt or any other team that's in that position. So that's the big thing for us. We just got to find a way to be better in the postseason, get deeper starts out of our starters, and do a little better job of hitting with runners in scoring position. Obviously we lost, the first game to Vandy was a very close game, and but we just came up short. And all in all, we came up short. It was a disappointing way to end the year.
Clemson baseball coach Monty Lee joining us. Corn mentioned the draft. How do you envision the draft affecting you among the players that you had either coming in or currently on your team?
Well, we lost two guys that were coming in Parker Meadows. We went in the second round of the Tigers, and would have been a center fielder, left-handed hitter with power. Just a guy that had an amazing amount of tools to work with. But we kind of expected that one all year long. We felt like, Parker was probably going to get drafted in the first or second round, and we kind of projected that we would not get him. The one that surprised us a little bit was Charles Mack. Charles was a young man, left-handed hitter, infielder out of Buffalo, New York. Felt like he would be a top 3 round type draft pick. For whatever reason, his stock fell a little bit. He still was drafted in the 6th round by the Twins and is going to sign. So, but besides that, Justin Lefty was a lefty that turned down significant money opportunities in the draft. He'll wind up at school, has a chance to be a weekend starter early in his career, one of the top 100 players in the country. Davis Sharp, young man out of Atlanta, big right-handed pitcher, also was drafted, turned down significant money opportunities. Carter Rathfield, right-handed pitcher, turned down opportunities. And Adam Hackenberg, a catcher out of Virginia, could have been drafted, somewhere in the top 3 rounds if the money was right. And, he decided that coming to school was in his best interest. So, overall, the draft worked out pretty good for us. We weren't hit too terribly hard, but, we would have liked to have gotten, maybe one more hitter through the draft, but it didn't work out that way. But we feel like we got a good group coming in.
In the year after the season ends and you look at that draft board, and I know at some point you have to anticipate who's going to be drafted where, how much can you tweak your immediate recruiting plan after you see what's going on in the draft?
It's very difficult, because we're committing kids, a lot of times, 2 years, sometimes 3 years before they ever come to school. And trying to project the draft is very difficult. You can project the draft. I think we've done a pretty good job of being able to project the draft over the course of the year in which, for your current players and your seniors in high school, you have a pretty good feel for it. But trying to sign a player when you feel like you're going to lose somebody to the draft at the point that the draft happens is next to impossible. It's next to impossible to recover if you're hit hard by the draft simply because you've run out of time to be able to replace a player that you lost to the draft. So that's what makes it hard is trying to recover from it when you lose a good, a couple players to the draft. You almost feel like as a coach, you're handcuffed a little bit, and there's just not a lot of opportunities to recover from it and sign somebody that can fill that void.
Monty Lee with us. You had 6 of your veteran players who were with you this year drafted between rounds 1 and 30. Beer, Gillum, Miller, Williams, Higginbotham, Wharton. Of those, what do you think is going to happen with the ones that could come back?
I think they're all going to sign. We anticipate, we had those conversations before the draft, and we anticipate every one of them signing. We also had Brooks Crawford and Grayson Bird. Those 2 guys turned down opportunities to be drafted. They did receive phone calls gauging their interest in signing.
if they were drafted, and just kind of based on the opportunity they were looking at, they turned it down to come back to school. So, but yes, I mean, Ryan Miller, Chris Williams, both seniors, so obviously they're going to go along with Drew Wharton, getting an opportunity to go out. And Riley Gilliam in the 5th round is going to sign, and Higginbotham in the 11th round is going to sign since he's an older junior. He's actually a 22-year-old junior. And then Seth, obviously Seth's going to sign. I mean, you get taken in the 1st round, you got to go. So we anticipate losing all of those guys.
And do you think you'll add anybody else to your 2018 class to replace maybe Mack or Meadows or anybody like that?
It's possible. Again, you're limited a little bit with what you're going to be able to get, but there could be the possibility that, we may be able to find a junior college guy that could fill that void, or, maybe a grad transfer that pops up. A lot of times when you get into June, things start to happen, and somebody typically will pop up. So we're going to continue to look and see if there's an option that we feel like is a really good fit. We don't want to just bring in anybody, though. We want to make sure if we do bring in a player, that is somebody that we feel like can have an immediate impact on next year's team.
Well, we want to thank you for being with us tonight and throughout the season. It was another great year. I know disappointing in, but there's still a lot of promise in the baseball program, a lot of development happening. So we wish you a very nice and restful summer and look forward to getting back with you baseball-wise in the fall and then next spring.
Well, thank you guys, as always, for having me on, and look forward to talking to you in the future.
Thank you so much.
Monty Lee joining us here on Sports Talk. We'll reassess how things are for them later on in the show, but we'll talk about the spring football for Wofford with their new head coach, Josh Conklin, next here on South Carolina Radio Network.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. We're going to talk to the money coach, Fran Halloran, coming up, and also Wofford football head coach Josh Conklin will visit with us here in just a couple moments. 800-956-7266. While we have a moment, let's go to Glenn, who's calling from North Charleston. Glenn, what's going on? You're on Sports Talk. What's up?
Not much, Mr. Will. I'm looking forward to 86 days, Labor Day weekend. It'll be a big college football weekend Saturday, and I'm looking forward to South Carolina kicking off at noon, I believe. I was wondering, have y'all heard about how Deebo Samuel, is he going to be in the lineup for the new season? Or
provided nothing happens between now and then, yes.
Cool. He was a dynamic player. He can see downfield. He can see. Oh, he'd be a great weapon for South Carolina.
I mean, it's obviously something where we look at him and we see that he is he's a vital part to their success. You wonder whether or not he's somebody who can move the needle for them, and obviously that's there's somebody, obviously, when you think about South Carolina and their success, I believe he turns them from a good team to a contending team.
Dynamic. I think he makes their offense dynamic.
Yes.
I mean, think about how good he was last season. You go back, opening kickoff, NC State touchdown. What do you have? 4 touchdowns in 4 games. Threat in the return game. Threat in the receiving game. You wonder if they will hesitate to use him in the return game because of the injury from last year, or if you're Will Muschamp, do you try to get everything you can out of
everything that Will Muschamp has said, because he's talking about this new rule with the touchbacks and whatnot. He said, we're not kneeling down and taking touchbacks. We have Deebo Samuel back there, and he's gonna run them out. So I think they're gonna use him.
And plus, you put him back there so some teams won't rely on having that pooch kick to try to pin you in between the 25 and the goal line. A lot of them are trying to pull that now, but I think Deebo will get a lot of rest on the kickoff team, because if anybody's crazy enough to kick it to him,
well, after the first 2 games of last year, why would you? I mean, it seems like, they'll do anything they possibly can to get him away.
He was off to such a great start. I mean, he really had All-American written all over him through the first 3-point-something games, and maybe even bigger honors than that. We're talking about the individual national awards, things of that nature. With Bentley at quarterback, the more weapons they have on offense, I mean, teams can't really afford, I don't think, with Brian Edwards and Shi Smith and what they've got in the backfield, and with a very seasoned Jake Bentley, who should be ready to have his breakthrough year. This should be the year where his completion numbers climb to 65%. The interception numbers come down. All the metrics should be going up for him going in as he goes through the junior year. And I can't see defenses being able to just focus on Deebo and double team him, because they've got other weapons that can hurt you if you don't pay attention to them.
The only silver lining that happened last year with Deebo getting hurt, I think you saw the accelerated the maturation of Ortre Smith and Shi Smith. And Shi Smith, to me, with Deebo, and we don't know what this young kid Josh Vann can do for them, but it looks like he's got tremendous speed. They're going to be dangerous.
800-956-7266. We'll take a couple more on Sports Talk as time allows. Alex is calling from Somerville. Alex, you're on Sports Talk on a Thursday. How are you?
Wonderful. I think Deebo, if he reminds me a little bit, when I was at a South Carolina NC State game and Sterling Sharp ran a touchdown, kickoff back for touchdown, they'd ready to get back. He reminds me somewhat of Sterling Sharp, and I think this will be his year. And I'm a big fan of college baseball, and I want to say I appreciate, you guys know baseball, and that's really important. And if I may be too, I don't know if you should I want to make a prediction about Gamecock Arkansas series, if it jinxes it or anything, but I did hear the Ray Tanner interview. And Ray Tanner said, I remember I was a long time ago, Mick Mixon had a talk show in Columbia, and someone called in talking about talking about football, about percentages and all that and statistics. And he said, Nick Mixon said that baseball is a game of statistics. And I think baseball, and I think in this case, baseball is, and I think Ray Care said that Arkansas, they're bound to lose some. And I think that, listen, they've only lost 4 games, but it's bound to happen.
Well, I don't know. Baseball is it's who's on the mound, how good your pitching is going to be that particular day. That kind of solves everything for you. If you get great starts, doesn't matter where you're playing, who the opponent is. If you got a guy out there that can get you deep into a ball game, and then you've got the bullpen that can come in and help keep it going, scratch across a run or two. Who knows? They might be able to go out there and steal this thing from Arkansas.
I mean, the guy we just had on can tell you the reason that they're still not playing right now is because they got no length out of their starting pitching this past weekend.
Well, you saw it. You witnessed it.
And you need to be able to get a guy into the 5th or 6th inning, or else you have no chance.
Yet, I really thought a strength of Clemson was their bullpen.
Yes.
And their middle relief. And much like with South Carolina.
But they put themselves in a hole is the problem.
South Carolina, in their opener against Ohio State, you got Adam Hill, who only goes 4 innings.
Right.
But they were able to get quality work out of their bullpen. As I noted over the weekend in our coverage, as we talked about earlier in the week, Gamecock bullpen only allowed 1 earned run for the entire regional. And the defense only committed 1 error for the entire regional. You get that kind of work from those 2 areas, and you've got a great chance to win a regional or any particular important game that you need. Do we have Coach with us? Shall we start?
Sure.
All right. Let's welcome in the new head football coach, not so new anymore, first-year head football coach at Wofford, Coach Josh Conklin, as we catch up with him on spring just completed and looking ahead to the opening of the football season. It's coming at us like a freight train with the Citadel and Wofford set to meet on September 1st. Coach, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
We're great. We're great. Good to have you with us. And how would you summarize your spring, what you were able to accomplish? And really, I think people want to know how different is your offense going to look compared to what it looked like the last 30 years?
The one thing that we try to do going into spring is we really did want to implement some of the new stuff that we were looking at, offensively. I can't tell you from a run game standpoint that it's going to look a whole lot different. I think when you look at the landscape of college football and just being being around as a defensive coordinator and having to defend a lot of different schemes, I think one thing that Coach Lang had always done a tremendous job of was implementing some pretty complex schemes as far as the run game goes. And we started to, look at some of our run pass options off of that, getting into a little bit more of what, most other teams are doing. And I think if we can get that done and we can continue to move forward with that, I think it's going to be, it has the potential to be something really, really special. I think last year we spent, what people don't understand is we spent probably 73 to 75% of the time in the gun running the triple, and the other percentage of the time was actually underneath the center and the traditional wing bone.
So you feel like the guys have the basics for what it is you're trying to implement, the adjustments that you're trying to make to your style of offense?
There's no question, and I think when you look at some of these run pass option teams that are out there and the traditional spread teams that you're seeing, that are the guys that are getting the ball in the perimeter with the bubbles, with the quick passing game, I think that those guys are running traditional inside zone, power read, traditional schemes. If we can implement those types of things with the run pass option game and also put in the run game and evolve it and mesh those two together, which we've gone down that road this spring. Like I said, I think it just makes you a whole lot more multiple. The completions are higher percentage. And then it also gives you a chance to, take a shot deep once in a while and get the ball pushed down the field vertically. But there's not a lot of different ways that we're being schemed right now from a defensive perspective. I think we understand what we're getting. Teams will cheat us.
Hey, Coach, let me jump in real quick. We got to hit a hard break. We're going to come right back to you talking with Coach Conklin from Wofford. Back in a moment.
Some more time with Wofford head football coach Josh Conklin here on Sports Talk. Remember, he's in his first season taking over for the legendary Mike Ayers here on Sports Talk. So we continue with Coach here, and just kind of as you continue to get used to this setting and this obviously this team and this surrounding, what has been in your mind your biggest challenge as you enter in now your first year with the Terriers?
I think the biggest thing for us is just trying to, maintain the type of culture that has been established there for so long, and what Coach Ayers was able to do. I get the comment a lot about, hey, you definitely got some big shoes to fill, and I understand that, and we understand that as a coaching staff, and I think that that's a huge challenge for us, and that's probably where the most pressure comes that we have. As a football program, just to make sure that we're, holding the guys accountable to the level that, Coach always demanded, to make sure we're recruiting the right type of guys, make sure we're putting together a coaching staff all the time that maintains those same type of values. And those have been the biggest things that we focused on. I think the scheme changes and all those things that you talk about, on a year-to-year basis will always be good. But I think that culture is so critical to a team's success.
Well, part of that culture, and you've been an assistant under Mike Ayers, is the other team never saw the football. I mean, when Wofford had it rolling, you had the ball control. Now, you want to have the quick strike in the changes in your offense, but I'm sure you still want that ball control. Well,
there's no doubt. And I think as a defensive guy, anytime you had an offensive – I remember when my first year up at Pitt, when we were with the offensive coordinator was Jim Chaney, who's now down at the University of Georgia with Coach Smart. And, he was our offensive coordinator, and I worked with him at Tennessee. And the thing that he always did a tremendous job of is he was able to control the clock when he needed to, especially at those most opportune times during the course of the game. And I think when you do that, will always be the recipe of winning football. And so I know our defensive coordinator has definitely looked forward to that, as far as those guys being able to run the ball, control the clock, and the best defense when you're on the sideline. And there's no doubt about that.
Well, do you like to punt on fourth down?
It depends on the situation. For me, I think that there's a lot of studies out there that look at the statistics in terms of your percentage of getting the fourth downs, and so much of that's based on the game and how you're doing from an offensive perspective, and if they feel like they can dial up the right play. But we'll definitely still be aggressive in doing that.
Talking with Josh Conklin, first-year head coach at Wofford, taking over for the legendary Mike Ayers. So how's it feel to have a running back like Andre Stoddard back? He is a load, had a really good year last year. You see him being focal point of your offense?
I really do, and I think it's so much of that starts too, and I think he'd be the first to start with your offensive line. I think those guys have done a really good job this spring. One thing that we've tried to emphasize in recruiting and with those guys, those offensive linemen this spring, is how important, they are to our success. I really do believe that it starts up front. It starts with your O&D line, especially those offensive linemen. When you talk about, controlling the clock and running the football, they're the guys. And then you put a guy like Andre back there in the backfield who has incredible balance, really good vision, just as instinctive as I've been around in terms of running the football. You got a pretty good package there in terms of an offensive person to showcase and make sure you're evolving the scheme around his talents and what he does well.
Joe Newman, is he your guy at quarterback going into fall camp?
I think it's going to be either one. We haven't said it's going to be Joe Newman yet or Miller Mosley. Both of them had a really good spring. They both do some different things really, really well. I'm not a guy that likes to operate in a two-quarterback system if I can help it. But both those guys have incredible leadership qualities. When you talk about passing the ball a little bit more, a guy like Miller Mosley probably at times this spring had the leg up on Joe, but Joe has improved dramatically in the course of his time here from the tape that I watched previous until now. So it'll be a good competition. It'll be a good battle, and both guys, we know we can win a lot of football games. I think going into the fall.
Josh Conklin, Wofford head coach, thanks so much for the time. We'll talk to you closer to the season.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. You guys have a good one.
That's head coach of Wofford, Josh Conklin.
Yeah, we'll be seeing Coach Conklin and all the other coaches around the states in August when we do our tour. And also, this gives me a chance to mention that we're going to have this summer another edition of South Carolina Coaches for Charity on July 24th up in Greenville. Coach Conklin will be there. Clay Hendricks, Will Muschamp, Buddy Pugh, Dabo Sweeney, Brent Thompson. Go to their website, southcarolinacoaches.com. You can get more information about getting tables and tickets. You can make your plans to be there up in Greenville.
Let's now check in with the guy who has become the hero du jour for South Carolina baseball, Danny Blair, who talked about not only his weekend last weekend, but how he has kind of emerged as the most popular man on the Gamecock baseball team.
It's special, obviously, for myself to be able to do what I did, but more so just for the team to finally get back to playoff baseball and to reach the Supers. It means a lot, and we're just excited, ready to get rolling down in Arkansas.
How tough has the last couple of years been for you? You were pretty highly recruited coming out of the high school, and you come here, and I guess the first couple of years you didn't quite get the playing time you wanted. How did you handle that? How difficult was that?
Yeah, I mean, being a competitive athlete and expecting to come out of high school, play right away, and then getting here and not really playing as much as you wanted to, it's tough. Obviously, you grow and you as a person and as a player, and you learn how to handle situations like this. So I feel like I've gotten better at handling it. And, like you said, out of high school, it was a lot different going from where I was and then coming here and then not playing as much right away and then maybe playing a little bit more last year. So, I've had my ups and downs, but just sticking with it, staying the course, it's, you learn, like I said, you learn how to deal with it. And it's
how difficult was it? I mean, just to kind of accept that kind of role and then the redemption factor of being able to come out and have the weekend you had.
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult. I've had some hard times and I've had some good times for sure. But like you said, it is redemption factor. Being able to come through this weekend and just show everyone what I can actually do. But like I said before, I'm just glad that I was able to just not just do that, but then finally come through the whole weekend and help my team win.
The first Arkansas series was so long ago. What do you think this team has learned about itself since then?
We learned that we can compete with the best teams in the country. I think we learned that right off the bat against Florida when we probably could have won that series, and we could have won that Arkansas series as well. We just learned that we're one of the best teams in the country. We've played at a very, very high level, and that if we can do that this weekend, then we can be going to Omaha next week.
Coach said a little while ago you'll be in that leadoff spot again come Saturday. That's got to be pretty exciting for you to know that what you did paid off.
Oh, absolutely. It's obviously everyone's goal is to be in that lineup, come game day, and to be able to just gain his trust and his confidence in me. It means a lot, and I'm glad that I can be able to help my team and hopefully spark them again this weekend.
That is Danny Blair from the South Carolina baseball team, and Coach Mark Kingston said he will fit that same role. Told the media on Wednesday that he'll be in the lineup, he'll be playing center field, and he'll be leading off.
That's just an amazing little story there. Here's a guy that was a complete afterthought, goes in as a defensive replacement, and then gets his opportunity and hits a 3-run homer that just barely got out of the park. He got it up in the wind. The ball carried to right field that afternoon, and it was the 3-run homer that erased a 2-run deficit, and the Gamecocks were off from there. A guy that was hitting 186 going into the regional raised his average to 250. It was named the regional MVP.
That's all?
Yeah, and it was like every time up, he did something positive. It seemed like, not every time in real life, but it just seemed like he always did something positive, whether it was moving a runner ahead, getting a bunt down, getting a base hit. He just had one of those great weekends that baseball players dream about.
We'll talk to the money coach, Fran Halloran, to close out the show today. We'll talk about how the money and the Major League Baseball draft intersect. Some guys are going to get some nice paydays here over the course of the next couple of weeks as we continue on Sports Talk.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
As Corn makes me aware going into the segment, we talk about the money coach, Fran Halloran. The Super Regional in Fayetteville has sold out at Baum Stadium. That's no shock.
Sure, that's mostly Arkansas fans.
One would think. It's a very nice place to watch a ball game.
Hogs fan.
I've walked past it after a football game. I've never seen a baseball game in there.
It is a beautiful stadium. Not to say that we don't have beautiful stadiums here, but it is one of the best in the country.
Money coach Fran Halloran joining us here on Sports Talk. Just a day removed from the end of the MLB draft. Some new millionaires born over the last couple of days, and some other guys who might get a couple $1,000s in the pocket, and they'll feel like millionaires. What do you think about all the cash heading down to these college guys now, and some of these high school guys too?
Well, good evening, guys, and thank you for having me as always. I appreciate it. I got to tell you, I don't see how a guy like, for instance, Seth Beer up at Clemson can even have a second thought about what he's going to do. I mean, if I understand correctly, that 28 slot, he went 28, right?
Yes.
That's about a $2.4, $2.5 million slot. Is that about right?
That's the slot, but as you know, they can go up or down, and that obviously is up to the team itself.
I got it, but I don't know that. Let's just use that number, because I can't imagine why he would consider going back to Clemson when he stands to be a multimillionaire off of him being the 28th pick in the draft. And I really want to put this in perspective. And I know all the arguments, he needs to go back to Clemson. He needs to get his degree. That's a bunch of hogwash, guys. I got to tell you, $2.4 million, you can buy a lot of degrees if you want to go back to school one day. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I did the math earlier today when I was prepping for this. If he follows the plan that we teach, we teach everybody, you got to put about 15% of your retirement income, your income away for retirement every year. And so if someone's making about $50,000 a year, it means they ought to be putting about, $60,000 a year. They ought to be putting away about $500 a month, roughly. Somebody putting $500 a month away for the next 25 years is going to have $500,000. $500,000 when they are in their, late 40s, early 50s, however old they are now. 25 years later, they're $500,000. Seth Beer, if he puts 15% of $2.4 million away, which is $360,000, and then all he does is put $500 a month away. When he's 46 years old, because the cat's 21, you're talking about having almost $4 million. $4 million bucks.
I tell you what, Money Coach, I dealt with some guys who were in the minor leagues who probably wish they had your advice going in, because knowing the way that some of these young men, when they get that signing bonus, they want to go get the car, they want to go get the house, they want to do all this stuff with it and spend. If it was me, I wouldn't want to touch a cent of that until I absolutely had to.
I couldn't agree with you more. And that's just doing what we teach people, 15% to your retirement. If he were my son, I'd have him put that I'd have him live on $1.2 million. I'd put $1.2 million away. 25 years later, he's going to have $12 million.
But think about this. Think about this, though, if I may interrupt. I mean, you're talking about Seth Beer, first-round pick. Okay, this is peanut money in terms of what he expects to earn once he gets to the majors and he becomes a star. I mean, all these guys expect to be successful and be stars. I mean, all he's got to do is hit probably wherever they play him, first base, left field, go up and hit about 265, 270 with 30 homers and 100 RBIs. He's going to pull in $6, $7, $8, $10 million a year, depending on the club he's playing for.
Absolutely right, Phil. But you know what? In my world, what we like to do is plan for the what ifs. So let's plan for the what ifs. What if he doesn't make it? if he just is smart with his money right now, he will literally change his family's tree forever. And this is something that we try to teach everyone who comes through Higgins and Halloran Financial Group. It doesn't take much. It takes a little bit of intentional living, a little bit of deliberateness, and you can literally change your family tree financially. I was in Charlotte the last couple of days in some classes, and I was sitting around talking with some people about these very things, a few Clemson grads, and I couldn't believe my ears when some of these people were saying, well, he needs to go back to Clemson. He needs to come on back to Clemson, play his last year, and then the money will be there forever. Bump that. You don't know what happens next. The money's not there. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. This young man has got a windfall of an opportunity ahead of him. I hope he's got good counsel. He needs to take this money and run. He can always, always come back to Clemson and finish the degree.
As far as from a psychological standpoint, a guy like Seth Beer, very young, he gets a lot of money. Is it good to mention to him what the average person makes for a lifetime and say, look what you got already?
Yeah. Well, I think it's really good to say to a young man like this, by the way, do know the average household income in America is about $53,000. You're going to make 40 times that on your bonus.
Wow.
And then some. Right. So he's got an opportunity ahead of him that is just unheard of, and I really hope he's got wise counsel. And a lot of these other kids do as well. I hope people are listening. I hope these young men are listening to the right people.
Fran,
because the opportunity they have financially is amazing.
Fran, what do you think about the Oklahoma quarterback who got drafted 9th overall, Kyler Murray? The Athletics are going to give him $5 million guaranteed, but he's also going to get to play another year of football at Oklahoma. That is the ultimate double dip, if I should say so myself.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I can't even, when I heard this, I went, you got to be kidding me. This is the best of both worlds. $5 million guaranteed. It's just unbelievable. But it just goes to show that the money in sports today is unfathomable. If they're willing to do this for a young man, imagine the deep pockets. Just deeper than we can ever imagine. I was stunned when I heard that.
And that's for a guy who couldn't crack the starting lineup at A&M.
There you go.
You ever give thought to becoming a sports agent, a baseball agent?
Well, I would love to get into that world, but right now, Phil, it's about all I can do to run my little shop there in Lexington, where we're trying to teach people how to be very intentional with their money. But I would love to get an opportunity to talk to some of these athletes, because they get charged a whole lot of money for a whole lot of bad advice.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth of it is, it's pretty simple. If you just do things intentionally and deliberately, you're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be fine. So, yeah, I'd love to help them.
Give us a chance to plug what you do.
Well, gentlemen, again, thank you for having me. If people want to talk to me, it's really simple. 888-779-2557. That's 888-779-2557. We do business all over the state of South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia. Got clients all over the Southeast. We love helping people learn a very simple financial plan and teach people how to behave intentionally with their money. We're here to serve our clients. That's what we do day in and day out.
Thank you, Fran. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good evening.
Kyler Murray thing is something else, man.
Money coach. Yeah, it is. Just going to mention this. South Carolina had 10 drafted. That's a record. Arkansas had 11 drafted.
Young.
That ties their school record. So the point is, they're very talented, and they're very highly thought of. So I will be gone tomorrow. I'll be watching from afar. Got to go to a wedding in Philly. So
we'll miss you.
You guys carry on, but we'll see if the Gamecocks can extend the sports season here in South Carolina just a little bit longer.
We will talk to you tomorrow from the Palmetto State and continue to break things as far as that goes. Hope you enjoy your Thursday. We'll talk to you on a Friday. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network.